Hello everybody, it's Justin! Playing No Man's Sky. I had no business selling this. Like everyone else who bought the game initially, I headed for the great migration out of No Man's Sky universe. Now, this is for those who don't know, this is a procedurally generated universe that you can just explore. So if you can see it, you can more than likely go to it. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I do wonder about suns, though, as in, not suns as in my son, but suns as in, you know, our sun, meaning our bright ball of gas in sky. Anyway, so that's what I'm playing right now. Anyway, so the Lord is saying for today to, I believe it's to meet the challenges, and that's something that we don't want to think about. At least that's something I don't want to think about. It's challenges. Challenges are this expectation of either a loss or a victory. There's not a middle ground with challenges. And what kind of did it, I can't know. Either you did or you didn't. That was the challenge. The challenge for this game, for example, is to get to the center of the universe. Either you did or you didn't. The challenge of a fighting game is to either beat your opponent or be beaten by them. Either you did or you didn't. The challenges of video games in general. Either you did or you didn't. So, but what does a challenge do? Let's narrate it back to video games. What a challenge does, it's something that begins to push you, but also trains you for failure too. Because many of us at our favorite video games were challenged by our favorite video games. Especially the old school people like myself. We were challenged by Mario Brothers. And think about this for those who are of a younger variety in the audience. If you go and play Super Mario Brothers, a lot of young people who play Super Mario Brothers right now, they get murdered in Super Mario Brothers. Get murdered in Super Mario Brothers. And that's good. They get murdered in Super Mario Brothers. Because when I was a kid, that taught me about challenge. It taught me about keeping going until the results that you wanted ended up in your playthrough, in your walk. So challenges were never a bad thing. They were a frustrating thing. They were just frustrating, period. Especially back in the Nintendo days. They were so frustrating. But once you actually conquered the challenge, oh my gosh. The elation, the boasting rights that you got, saying that I beat Double Dragon 3. It's like, no you didn't, that's impossible. The game's impossible. Because that game was impossible. I don't think my brother and I ever did beat Double Dragon 3. We got to the last boss in the last form. Never could beat that lady. Never could. It was awful. Yet, so we beat Battletoads together, but we didn't beat Double Dragon 3 together. Let that sink in. Just let that sink in. Anyway. Challenges, though, bring out, I think, when we overcome those challenges, they bring out the very best of life. And they bring out a deeper level of an understanding of our potential. They're amazing. Challenges are amazing when you meet them head on. When you meet them head on, they do all this cool stuff. So there's a story of my brother and I playing not Double Dragon, but Battletoads. So Battletoads, as we all know, is knucking futs. It is a ridiculously, legendarily difficult game to play. I don't care if you use warps or not. You're still going to run into a nightmare scenario. It is just awful. It is absolutely treacherous, Battletoads. So, my brother and I were always playing things two-player together. So this is back in the day where you didn't know any better. People know now not to try to beat Battletoads together. People know better now. But back in my day, we didn't know any better. So we would plan to beat Battletoads on two-player mode. Now then, mind you, Battletoads is a game where you have to be essentially completely in sync with one another. If one of you messes up, I'm going to tell you right now, you're both through. You are both through. Because when one person loses all their lives and continues, you start over again, too. So there's none of this, in Contra where, your guy dies and you can borrow a life from them. And no. If player 2 or player 1 gets a game over, you both get a game over. So you can be doing fantastic while your little brother is stumbling around and everything, and once he loses, it's over. So you have to start all the way back at the beginning, lose and continue, and let's say that, for example, let's say that you're continuing with a full thing of lives, and then the other player only has one left. So that means that the continuing back, that you can have one life, the other player have 5, but now it's completely unbalanced. So that means that you're about, if the other player loses just 1 or 2 more times, then they're through also. That means you have to start all the way back again. It's awful. It was awful. Oh my gosh, it was awful. I should have taken that rare bundle that they made recently for the Xbox and just burned it. It's awful. So anyway, so my brother and I were doing this thing, and this shows you the beauty of challenge. It really, really does. We had to be like a married couple almost. We had to be great communicators, and we had to teach one another and learn from one another and meet the other person's needs and things like that. We had to actually be really in sync. We really had to be in sync. Because some of you guys know about the turbo tunnel in stage 3, which is a nightmare unto itself. So my brother and I, we did this thing where he would stick his nose out a little bit further because he was the oldest and had the quicker reaction time. Now my brother and I are 6 years, sometimes 7 years apart from each other. So, I'm like the little brother, okay? I'm the little brother, and I'm playing Battletoads with my big brother. And he had to poke his nose out just a little bit further so that he wouldn't get caught up in my Battletoad and his Battletoad. They wouldn't be kind of, doing the thing where they kind of bounce in and out of each other. They wouldn't be able to tell who's who because he had to be precise. He had to be so precise when it came to the turbo tunnel. So he would stick his nose out. I would now be further in the back to give me more wiggle room in the back. That's what big brothers do. Big brothers go ahead and lead out first. They lead out first. So, but we would do stuff like that. And my brother would be like, okay, remember this, Justin? Remember this, Justin? It's like, okay. And so we just figured it out together. And we got past it. Got past the turbo tunnel. Got past the snakes. Got past... And watch a playthrough of Battletoads. Just watch a playthrough. It's madness. And not even the good macho madness. It's just bad madness. And this guy right here was funny. Because he would just kind of make a beeline for me. He's hilarious. Anyway, so we did that, and we started getting through Battletoads together in 2-player. Until eventually, after much laboring and going through just all those awful experiences of losing, and my brother teaching me and we losing, and my brother teaching me and me losing, and my brother teaching me and we losing, my brother going ahead of me first to try to beat it himself, and me watching him. And so we were studying this game together, right, in order to get past it. And eventually, the day that we beat the last boss, we were just like, oh my gosh, we did it. And both of us were alive too. And we did it more than one occasion also. Challenges like that help us. It helped my brother and I actually bond in ways that, frankly, in some ways, not a vast majority at all, but in some ways, I haven't bonded with anyone since then, and I am married. Like, my wife and I have not gone through a game together where we were just pressed and had to communicate to the fullest levels of communication in order to make it past the game or whatever. We haven't done that yet. So that's something that my brother and I only share. And we've bonded, and we can talk about that experience and those experiences like that, beating Super C, Contra Super C together, and all these other really, really tough games. But you couldn't just go and play the game and forget about yourself. You had to team up. You had to communicate. You had to be as one mind when you play some of these older Nintendo games. Because even if, like, for example, you're in a level that scrolls upwardly, if your partner was at the bottom of the screen, then the code would recognize it as a pit. And then, so if you jumped and your character was below and the screen scaled upwardly, then that means that you died. It was ridiculous. It's a ridiculous, horrible time in human history. Man versus machine. Man versus machine. So, but that, overcoming those challenges made my brothers and I's relationship beautiful. And all these years later, I still look up to my big brother. I still do. I still look up to my big brother. I still look up to Rob, as he's known from his friends. I still look up to him. And I probably always will because of those experiences. Because as a kid, that meant so much to me when I was a kid. But again, that's just challenge. That's just what the nature of challenge does. Now, when you don't meet challenge, it just sits there and torments you. When you do not meet challenge, it just sits there and torments you. Because it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Because some challenges are things that you have got to do. They're a high priority. On the other side of it is life. And you're just sitting there, observing, thinking about it, praying about it for like 87 years. Like, just sitting there, taking all the abuse, all the torment, all the things that you don't need to go through. God's like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm right here with you, son. I'm right here with you. You're like, I don't know if I believe that. Really, really for real, tripping. Just tripping. So, I want you guys to meet your challenges. God wants us to meet your challenges. I think God's challenges look a lot different than what our challenges looks like. Sometimes our challenges are just self-inflicted stuff because we haven't taken care of our priority for like 8 months. And then all of a sudden, it's become a bigger challenge than it needed to be. Why? Because you sat on it for 8 months. So some of those things happen. Then sometimes life just happens, But in the midst of all that stuff, the biggest challenge that we have as Christians is to simply obey God. That's the challenge. Because it brings out faith, it brings out our belief, it brings out what we believe, it brings out all that stuff. Because it's an unknown. Even though it's an unknown, though, the probability of trusting in the one that is known, now that is something you can reassure yourself in. Yes, it may look different than what it is that you imagine it to be, but sometimes that's a good thing, because you might be a total schmuck, and doing it differently might be the best thing for you, and you may not even think you're a schmuck. But you have to kind of look at your track record, and as the great prophet Dr. Phil once said, how's that working out for you? Which is a wonderful question. How's that working out for you? Are you ready to do it God's way yet? Or are you going to keep on saying, I don't know, I'll figure it out. But maybe you won't. Maybe you just got to do it a different way. So that goes for all of us, and that's just a difficult thing to do, but that's the challenge that we have. There was a guy that I met recently at a meeting, and he was this really, really great speaker. Very, very well established. Very, very well in terms of marriage and family life and income and all those things. Just a wealthy guy. Not wealthy in the sense of just money, but wealthy in terms of investments and people he was leading and all this stuff. So this guy talked at his meeting, and I could tell that God was doing really tremendous things in his life. Like, and he began to speak for a little while, and I was kind of like, man, that guy's a preacher if I ever did hear one in my life. Because the anointing was on the guy. So as soon as the guy stepped in, I felt the anointing of this joy on him. The anointing of joy was on this guy. It's all over this guy, you know. And again, I'm a apostolic believer. So, but I sensed like the joy of the Lord was on this guy. He was telling a lot of jokes and everything, you know, but he also had teeth on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can tell some jokes, but he can get, you know, right in your face and let you know what's up. What? You know, he had some teeth on him because he was I think he's ex-military. So, and I was just kind of like, wow. But why does he have joy if he can kind of go in like that? Because usually when you think about somebody that's joyful, you know, you think about someone that is, you know, pretty carefree and no matter what, they are good to go or whatever. But the Lord began to kind of talk to me and deal with me as he was speaking. And he's kind of put in my spirit, you know, in that still voice that he always does, that joy means to overcome. So it means to overcome. It's like, when you can overcome, and when you just overcome with the Lord, where's your joy even going? It's like, no matter what, you know, there's favor. No matter what, I'm walking in what it is that he wants me to do. No matter what, I'm doing all these things. No matter what, there's joy. There's joy. And I looked at it that way, and now I'm going to be looking at it that way. Is that some people are just good overcomers, and they have joy because of that. He met the challenges. That's why that guy is favored to have joy. He's favored to have joy. So isn't that a beautiful thing? So challenges are not this thing to run from. They are to meet head on. Meet head on, because there's going to be all these amazing things. All these amazing things that can happen and be unlocked and be brought into the kingdom, and then also brought down here into the earth realm, if we just simply meet the doggone challenge. What is God challenging you with? What has he told you to do? Do you believe that you can do it? I don't believe that you can do it. I believe that you can do it with God. And just like my brother, I wasn't able to meet the challenge by myself. I had to depend on my brother and learn from someone older than me, someone more experienced than myself. I had to do that in order to really get the job done. Because even by myself, I could not beat Battletoads by myself simply by my own ability. I had to have my brother to inspire me. I had to have my brother to look up to watch him play, to watch him do the things and everything. I had to have someone that was more experienced, more coordinated, more all those things in order to guide me into the victory. And then eventually I became his equal. And when I became his equal, we met the challenge together. And we came out conquering that challenge with a closer bond and a new kinsmanship. What is God asking you to do? What is the challenge? There's plenty of things that I try to do alone. I don't want to do them alone, but the challenge for me is to finding the right people. I'm not saying that the right people as in good people and bad people. I'm just saying that people who maybe share the same vision, or somebody that God is really bringing into me, or, you know, who does God want me to partner with and things like that. So the challenge for me is to keep on trying to find the right team and the right people and the right this and the right that. Who's God pointing out, and not look at it. And then when I don't find that, you know, because I've been looking for team members for my release game for like 4 years. Never did find anybody. Well, except for Andy Smith, audio guy, wonderful audio engineer, and my wife did the monsters, not the humanoids, but the monsters on that game. And that's a challenge for me to continue to seek that, but I just need to maybe seek it in a different place. Just because I'm not meeting the challenge doesn't mean that, game development, it just isn't for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and quit. No. Maybe you just need to adapt. You know? There's plenty of people in the Bible that they would have probably said that, well, this is not for me, God. But because it was God, they had to listen. Like, why do you have me doing this, Lord? You know who and what I am and what I'm capable of. And God just smiles and says that I do what I do. I know you. If I put it on you, I'm not going to give you more than what you can bear. Or depending on where you're from, more than you can bear. So, why are you worried about whether or not you can do this or not? Because I gave it to you, you can handle it. Now, you can be wiser in how you handle it, and once again, learn and obey and be obedient. Or, you can do it your way, which is the hard way, which is the way that, you know, Adam and Eve had to try to do it their way because they wanted to be like God. Then, and not being like God as in, I want to be like Jesus, God, but like be like God as in, I'm going to control my destiny and do whatever it is that I want to do. That thing. But because we have finite and infinitesimally small understanding of time and space and things like that and understanding, then that's probably not a good idea for us to have our fate in our hands like that. On that level. So, anyway, guys, that's my time. There's some challenging times ahead, and just because there's some challenges in your life does not mean that you can't meet them. And sometimes the challenge is going to be so counterintuitive to us, like, especially in these times of such political identification and things like that. It's just rampant everywhere, you know. There's a lot of challenges to go along with that. I think the challenge is for us even as a nation right now is to not engage in the same behavior that we hate from another side or a different perspective. Not engage in the same behavior. Taking the high road. So that's a challenge within itself. So sometimes the challenge is the urge to not resist. There's so many different forms out there, but God's way is better. God's plan is always better. So, all right, guys, be encouraged. Be encouraged that if you have it, if He's given it to you, He will qualify you. He will absolutely qualify you. Do not be discouraged. Whatever that you have, that cross that you have, is not going to be more than you can bear. It's not. Especially if you have someone like Simon, someone alongside with you to help you carry the cross. It's not that bad. Everything will be fine. So then, that's my time, guys. You can support me on Patreon. That's going to be a link in the description below. I want you guys to take care of yourselves, and I want you guys to meet the challenge and not be tormented by it. Please don't. There's such greatness on the other side of the challenge. Do it for your own sake. And if you have children, for the sake of your generations, man or woman, please go for it. And it's never as challenging as the challenge that you have against yourself. It's never going to be as challenging as that. If you can get over yourself, it is 98% attitude, 2% skill. It will always be that way. 98% attitude, 2% skill. Remember that. Alright, guys, that's my time. You can do this. Why? Because He's with you. That's why. Because He's with you and He gave it to you. That's why. You can do it. Meet the challenge. Don't let the enemy sit there and terrify you and torment you for your entire life. Go for it, and go for it with the right people. Love you guys, and see you all this time around at 12:30, as I schedule these every single day now. 12:30 EST, Eastern Standard Time. And Lord willing, I'll talk to you later. Baby! Thank you once again to my Patreon supporters. It means so much to me. Just look at them. Just look at these people. Just look at it.